So, the idea of a UFC one night tournament is an idea that has been talked about before by many people within the UFC MMA community, but it's always been something that's kind of been thought of as impossible. Obviously, there are a lot of obstacles standing in the way. There are a lot of concerns when it comes to something where people are going to be fighting multiple times per night. But to say that it's impossible or even implausible or even something that wouldn't make sense to do, I believe is wrong. I believe that there are many reasons why a UFC one night tournament involving four fighters fighting for a belt could actually be a great move by the UFC and something that not only profits the company and the fans, but something that's going to be incentivized for the fighters themselves. So let's get right into it. We're going to start by talking about how this tournament would be structured. So this would have to be a four-man tournament, including a champion, or if there's a vacant belt for whatever reason, just the clear four contenders. Most divisions don't even really have four clear contenders, so it's not like you're really going to have to worry about leaving people out. Plus, part of the reason why fighters are going to want to participate in this is because it gives them a direct shot at the belt when maybe they're a fight or two away from having a shot at the belt. This guarantees them that if they perform, if they fight well, they are going to get their shot at the belt, even though they're not the number one contender, maybe. So, how this would work, it would be the champion, if there is a champion at the moment, versus a contender, 3 round fight, and then contender versus contender 3 round fight, and then the winners of those two 3 round fights are going to fight in another 3 round fight. That way, the most that anybody is possibly going to fight in this tournament format is 6 rounds. That's only one more round than a normal championship fight. Plus, you have that rest in between. Now, I know that rest in between does cause something like swelling, when you take a rest for fighting, the adrenaline kind of goes away. I know it's kind of hard to get back in there, but these are problems that can be worked through. So the first round is going to serve as the first and second main card fights. That's going to open up the card, right? So you're going to start with the contender versus contender, then go with the champion versus contender. In between, you're going to have two like unrelated fights, just good main card fights that are going to give a nice hour-long break for the competitors in the tournament, and then the winners of that are going to come back to compete in the 3 round main event. Now, honestly, I think 3 round fights are typically more exciting fights because what you see often in championship fights is if there is a skill gap, if one of the guys is clearly better, maybe they'll take off rounds, maybe they'll cruise rounds, especially when there's a lot of grappling involved. It starts to get a little bit boring because if you are completely dominant in one area, say the grappling, and you are just going to be able to do whatever you want for 5 rounds, we don't need to see 5 rounds of that, right? We can just see 3 rounds of that. Plus, this tournament format incentivizes you to get finishes so you are more fresh for your second fight. So I think that's another added plus of this structure. And then let's move into why would these fighters agree to fight in a 4-man tournament in one night? Because admittedly, that is a lot of stress on your body. That is a lot more that you're going to have to prepare for. This is something that's like never been done in the modern UFC. I believe since UFC 4, where there was an 8-man tournament. So it would have to be like a massive payout for the winner of the tournament, maybe like a $4 or $5 million thing, which honestly isn't all that much more than some champions are making anyway. So that would honestly just have to be adjusted to how much these fighters are already making, what they're going to agree to. And this is also something that the UFC are going to be able to use to promote, kind of like how the PFL promotes their $1 million prize for the winners of their tournaments, which happen over time. Those aren't one night tournaments. The UFC would be able to say like $5 million or $10 million on the line for the winner of the 4 best fighters in the division going at it 3 times in a row. And also, obviously, the belt is on the line. Like I said before, this gives contenders that maybe feel overlooked, guys like Bilal or Leon Edwards in the past, gives them a chance to fight for the belt when they feel like they've been overlooked for the belt. Guys like Marab as well could count for that. And then Three contenders would all have their chance at the belt, but the champion has the opportunity to clear out the division and be the star of maybe the biggest pay-per-view in UFC history, right? This would be unprecedented. I'm sure the promotion would be insane for this, and the champion who ends up with the belt after that is going to be a massive name, even if they weren't beforehand. And then the winner would be able to lay claim to being the only and first fighter in modern UFC history to win two fights in a night. All right, and then let's talk about the way that the company could promote this, because especially given some of the fighters that I'm going to mention in the next couple parts of this video, they could promote this to easily be the biggest UFC card ever, bigger than UFC 300, bigger than Khabib versus Conor. So obviously it being the first one-night tournament in modern UFC history already just gives it that buzz. People are going to be talking about it. This would be massive news for the company. This would transcend MMA. This would be one of the biggest news in sports leading up to it. It could be done for like a landmark event such as UFC 400. I know that's years and years in the future at this point, but that is still one of the big upcoming landmark events for the UFC. Maybe a return to the Sphere. I think they could do something even bigger with the Sphere, seeing as how much hype there was around the Sphere, even though it wasn't honestly the greatest card. Maybe just an international fight week or a stadium show. Like they said, maybe considering doing a show at the Santiago Bernabeu, the Real Madrid stadium, especially if Ilia Topuria is involved. Like you'll see, that could be massive. That's like 100,000 person stadium. Massive to sell that out and have a tournament in the middle of the field. And then obviously there would be kind of a new element when you're fighting twice in a night. How are these fighters going to pace themselves? What's their strategy going to be in the first fight? Are they going to go out there cautious, trying to avoid damage? Are they going to go out there trying to get the other guy out of there in the first round so they're fresh for the second fight? I think it would just make it more of a chess match, more interesting, and I think it would make it more exciting knowing that no matter what happens in this fight, one of these fighters is going to have to fight again, and you're not sure who their opponent is going to be. Alright, so then let's get into like some concrete examples of this. Nothing that I really believe would be done very soon in the future, but like if they were going to announce this, these are some of the potential divisions and the fighters that they could announce this in. Now, featherweight. I think the thing about featherweight, it seems like Ilia Topuria is kind of itching to move up, which isn't great because there are still three pretty compelling contenders in this division. Now, I'm not sure how compelling Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria 2 is at this point, but there are two contenders that I believe are very deserving of title shots. That is Diego Lopez and Movsar Evloev. This way, we can match up Volk against Evloev, and we can match up Diego Lopez against Ilia Topuria. This way, Topuria can clear out the entire division in one night if he's able to. Diego Lopez gets his shot, Movsar Evloev gets his shot, and Volk gets to prove that he still has it before he gets his rematch. This would just be perfect. I think Evloev versus Volk is the better one because we know Evloev's probably not going to go out there and just knock out Volk. We get to see if Volk still has his skills, his speed, his striking precision. We get to see if Evloev is legit to the point where he is going to be able to out-decision Volkanovski, who is one of the greatest fighters of all time. And going into the final between maybe Evloev and Ilia Topuria, that would be massive. Diego Lopez just straight up gets his shot against Ilia Topuria. If he wins that, he'll have to defend against either Evloev or Volk. Both two intriguing matchups, guys he's never fought before. So something like this could work out great. And like I said, this could be at the Real Madrid stadium with 100,000 fans in Spain. Probably the biggest night in UFC history. Another division that's kind of congested at the top, somewhere that this could happen. You've got Jack Della Maddalena, who's sort of deserving of a title shot. He'll probably get one more win in real life before he gets a title shot. But if you're going to have a four-man tournament, yeah, throw him in there. Leon Edwards deserves a shot at redemption too. Throw him in there against Shavkat, who 100% deserves a title shot as well. We're going to get to see Jack Della Maddalena versus Bilal, and then we're going to also get to see Leon Edwards versus Shavkat. Those are two brand new matchups, and then likely the final is also going to be a brand new matchup, unless Leon gets past Shavkat and Bilal gets past Jack Della Maddalena, in which case we know that that's a repeat of the two best fighters in the division. Things could happen. Maybe Carlos Prates is in here. Maybe Ian Gary is in here. Maybe Sean Brady is in here instead. There's a lot going on at welterweight, and this kind of speeds up the division. It gets rid of the log jam, because the champion who comes out of this four-man tournament would then be able to say, okay, now we can look at the up-and-coming guys like a Sean Brady, like an Ian Gary, like a Carlos Prates, and then they would have 3 new contenders to fight these guys. So that's something that could work out at welterweight. But the reason I really made this video, I believe that this would be by far the biggest night in UFC history. This would be a light heavyweight tournament fighting for the heavyweight belt. I believe with time to prepare, both Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev could get to the same size as Jon Jones at least. Jon Jones is not a massive heavyweight. He's a natural light heavyweight. Tom Aspinall, on the other hand, is a natural heavyweight, but at heavyweight, both of these guys, Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall, are kind of out of contenders aside from each other, and both Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev have expressed interest in moving up. I think regardless of the winner between Pereira and Ankalaev, there's not going to be much left for them at light heavyweight rather, because who really is there to challenge either one of these guys? Maybe a Jan Blachowicz, but he hasn't fought since his loss to Alex Pereira, and neither of these guys are going to fight a guy that they already beat coming off a win against Carlos Ulberg if he does get that win. Maybe they could fight an Ulberg, but that's not really all that compelling compared to these guys moving up. I believe the first fight should be between Pereira and Ankalaev. The winner of that holds the light heavyweight belt regardless of the winner of the final tournament. And then the second fight, obviously, between Aspinall, Jon Jones. A massive fight on its own, too. The winner of that temporarily holds the heavyweight belt until the final fight of the night, where the light heavyweight champion moves up in the same night to fight the brand newly crowned heavyweight champion. Man, I think this promotes itself. You have 4 of the biggest fan bases in the sport. You have the UK fan base, you have the Jon Jones fan base, you have the Brazilian fan base, and then you have the Russian Muslim fan base. So I don't see how this could be any bigger. I think if Conor McGregor and Khabib came back, this would still be bigger. Well, maybe, but I do actually believe that. So let me know what you guys think of this idea. I'm working on some videos that are gonna be more heavily edited, right? I'm gonna try to get some fight clips in there so I can really analyze things. I'm working on transitions, stuff like that. So I'm going to be bringing a lot more quality to this channel in the future. I'm excited for that, and please leave a comment. Let me know where you agree, where you disagree. I enjoy answering your comments. Have a great day.